Perfect, thanks. All right, we're going to be talking about creating role plays and business games that resonate. Generally speaking, though, just speaking activities. We want to get our students, our learners talking. I mean, we're teaching languages. We're not teaching maths, right? So ideally, I mean, we all know what we want to see in our classrooms, right? We want to see people speaking, groups interacting, having fun, sharing, discovering the language, exploring the language, and generally having fun together. Sadly, we know too well that quite often we're confronted with situations where the speaking activities we were so proud of and we were convinced were going to work don't work. You see that picture on the upper right and the picture on the lower left? These guys are not engaged. They're not speaking. They're not sharing. They're in their thing. Now,
Yeah.
I specifically chose two pictures because I think they're mostly two different reasons. What reasons do you see in these pictures? Why are these people not talking, not sharing?
Are they allowed to unmute themselves and talk, or just drop their answers in the chat box?
Whatever is more comfortable to you.
Okay, that's fine. So everyone, if you would like to answer, just raise your hands or just unmute yourselves and talk. Yeah.
I know it's Ramadan as well, so maybe you're in a set like.
I think no problem. I think number one, the picture that on the right up, because she doesn't feel that she belongs to the group, maybe.
So it's on a
or she feels
personal
like
level, right?
her level of or her skills is not accurate with their level, maybe.
Okay. She might not feel good enough to speak.
Yeah.
Maybe she's in a group with students that speak better than her. You're right. She might feel inadequate. We all know we're in the century of social awareness and everything. We don't know. She might be a bit bullied in her class. She might just be shy. There are really a lot of different reasons why, but I agree with you. The photo on the upper right is about a personal situation. And in the chat, I saw busy with their phones about the one on the lower left. Why are they busy with their phones, though?
Because they are not engaged.
Yes.
Yeah, but I don't know what to say or just to say about why they are not engaged. Not sure.
Well, that's the thing. So of course there is the solution of just banning phones from the classroom.
Maybe they are not. Yes, exactly. Mr. Ahmed said that. Just say that they are not interested. Yeah,
they're not
someone
engaged,
said
they're
that.
not interested. So basically, we have two possible reasons. There's the personal reason, there's the activity reason. And you'll see that in my recipe for good speaking activities, good role plays, you'll see that we're going to try to answer both of these issues without diving in too deeply. I mean, we are still teachers. We're not psychologists, psychiatrists, things like that. We need to know when our expertise is limited and when to readapt, when to shift focus and things like that. But we're going to try to see what we can do within the context of our expertise, both in terms of the students themselves on a personal level. How can we engage them, maybe get them out of their shells? Because that might just be that she's shy. And with the activities themselves, how to get the flow, how to get a dynamic flow with those four people clearly on their phones. They also have beers, but we'll never, they shouldn't in class. So let's think about the goals and expectations. First and foremost, before we take a look at the activities themselves, let's make sure that we're focused on the same thing. students and teachers. Oh, sorry, Ahmed. Yes, they aren't interested. Exactly. Not engaged, not interested. Now, to make sure that we cater to their needs, let's first think of goals and expectations. Us as teachers, we know our goals, we know our expectations. We want in our activities, we want there to be repetition, for all the hard skills, all the grammar, the vocabulary, the things that can be simply drilled into our memories. Drilling activities, I know, seem old, seem outdated, things like that. They are not. If you have any doubt, look to the work of Dr. Anders Ericsson on deliberate practice. He studied, and this is not just about English language education, he studied expertise in various different spheres, and he specifically investigated how experts developed high-level expertise in their field. And you will see that there's a key component to that. It's repetition. It's drilling. So we want there to be repetition in our activities, not repetition, not boring repetition of same situations and things like that. We're going to go over that, but we need repetition if we want our students to progress, to not just have fun. We also want a good dose of exploration, because language is not just about hard skills. It's not just grammar, vocabulary that you drill, and then bing, bada, boom, you can speak. There are a lot of soft skills in ESL, in English language teaching, well, any language, because it's about communication. In soft skills are more complicated. We can't just drill them. We have to explore. And of course, we want to see results, because we can't really adapt. We can't plan our next lessons if we don't see results. That's what helps us help them progress. Now, what of the students? The students on their side, they want to have fun. Now, I'm putting that first. It's not always the first priority, but let's face it. Actually, if we were talking about school teachers, a lot of you in the chat said you were school teachers. Well, that's an engaging part of school, because they're forced to go to school. They have to go to school. So any dose of fun it works like magic with them. They want to have fun, but they also want to develop their skills. And the more you're in the private sector or university, things like that, the closer these students are to having to work, the more they understand that, yes, their skills are very important, because that's what life is about. And so finally, bing, bada, boom, we meet something, we have something in common. We all want to see results. So how are we going to achieve that? Well, I'm going to propose you my little recipe for good speaking activities, for good role plays that engage. So what we're going to do today, we're going to do a little dose of active listening. I'm sure some of you have heard of active listening. If you haven't, don't worry, we'll get into it. We're going to talk about engaging activities and variability and flexibility in context. And you'll see that you put that together in the salad, you got an amazing recipe already there. And finally, we're going to have, sorry, I just saw it in the chat, Ahmed, you're absolutely right. They want to have fun, and they should. And finally, we're going to take a little leaf out of the book of storytellers, and we're going to take a look at what compelling characters are, because, you know what, I think it shouldn't be all of our job, of course not, but I think nowadays there is a bit of entertainer aspect to the teacher. So we're going to take a look at compelling characters, how to have those compelling characters, and how to get them to engage our students. First and foremost, you see at the bottom, ease them into it. Never forget, because I easily forget that myself, that we are prisoners of our own rituals. Human beings are beings of habits. We easily fall into our routines. We easily get used to things. And we should never forget that the context of our lessons, personally, I don't know about you, but personally, I've been doing this. for a good 15, 20 years, to me, it's absolutely logical that we develop a climate of trust in the classroom. To me, it seems absolutely obvious that no, it doesn't matter if you make mistakes. I'm not going to be there with a whooping stick, whooping you for every mistake, like the stereotype of the piano teacher from 50 years ago. But that is my context. The students that come in the classroom, whether online or offline, I do not know what their rituals, their habits are. And to them, me coming in and being all like, hey guys, don't worry about making mistakes, go speak, it might be too much for them from their own rituals, their own habits of what it is to be teaching, to be studying a language. So very important, be aware of your students and ease them into it, because if you dive in a complex quest, if you develop this amazing quest for students that have practically only done classic public school teaching in a very PPP type education, then unfortunately that quest will probably fail, not because it was badly designed, because your students weren't ready for it. That's it. So let's dive into this recipe and do a step-by-step, just as I prone. We're going to start with active listening. Can anybody help me define active listening very quickly in a few words? Has anyone ever come across the concept of active listening? All right, in the chat. Focusing, relevant one, listening to respond. Very good. Respond is a very important word here. What is active listening to you? That's what I was asking. I think Mohammed's answer is pretty interesting here. Listening to respond, because you see, in his answer, he's already talking about a response. Yes, when it's related to them, responding to real life problem. Nice, Ahmed. Well, the idea of active listening is basically being an active part of the conversation, not letting someone just drone on and on and on and on and on. Actually, I don't know if you've noticed, and I do not know very well this in Egyptian. I can tell you where I worked. I worked, for example, France, Russia, so I know those two languages quite well. In French and in Russian, people will let others speak for longer than in English. English is a very active language. It requires a lot of back and forth in dialogues. You will hear a lot of people saying, really? How about that? This is active listening. It's a way of keeping the conversation engaged. Perfect. Responds with questions or comments. We like to interrupt in Arabic. Okay. All right. Well, depending on what kind of interruption, but in English we do too. And you're right. We have to find the right dose between interruption and active listening. So the idea of active listening, I like to picture it this way. Picture a conversation as a fire. You got those wood logs and there's a fire going. The problem is that if you don't regularly put wood back in the fire is going to die out. You know, a little campfire. You got a couple of tents, a couple of people around the campfire. And if nobody's going to put wood in the fire is going to die out and everybody's going to go back in their tent and go to sleep. You want to regularly add a little dose. And how do you do that in a conversation? Because there is no real wood in the conversation. What you do, well, first and foremost, eye contact. Now, that's very important. We all know in real life conversations that we need eye contact. But I don't know if you've noticed in speaking activities, because it's in the classroom, things like that, there are students that took notes and things like that. They're reading their notes. No. get the students in eye contact mode. You can prepare, you can take notes, but once the conversation is started, eye contact. Your notes are there to help you prepare for the conversation, not for reading material. Now, teach your students as well about active listening, the idea of mirroring emotions and validating emotions. Let's remember that in most conversations, human beings are not looking for a solution. They're looking for another human being to say, "Oh, I understand." We'll see activities for that. Don't worry. We want to engage in questions. I don't remember who said that in the chat, but same thing. Like responding to others and saying, "Look who's talking." Exactly. So the idea, engaging with questions, you don't want to let a person talk without engaging with questions to encourage them to keep talking. And follow up. You know, adding wood to the fire. If it's just questions that are keeping the other person talking, then you're acting a bit like a talk show host. You know, you're interviewing George Clooney. Come on, come on, come on. What about this? What about that? What about? No, it's important as well to engage with questions, but also to follow up with some personal anecdote, a link with something that you've experienced. Oh, how about that? Well, one time I went there and the same thing happened to me. This is all active listening. 5 easy points. If you're in a classroom, by the way, print it out and put them on the wall. I love these little visuals around classrooms. They're great. In online lessons, it's a bit more difficult, but if you have online lessons, you can have a section for these kind of reminders on your virtual board. Let's have a look at an activity that can help students develop that skill of active listening. And this is kind of a first type of activity that I find extremely useful with students. I use these in even in warmer situations. All you need are 5, 10, 15 minutes at the beginning of the class. And believe you me, when you start classes with these types of activities on a regular basis, completely changes the tone of your lessons. Your students are not anymore coming to the lesson expecting, okay, our teacher's going to talk us about some stuff. Big surprise, out of what we're talking about, the teacher is going to extract some new grammar or some new vocabulary. We're going to practice it. And at the end of the lesson, we're going to have a speaking activity. That's pretty much what they expect. Mix it up a little bit. Get them speaking from the start, at the beginning of the activity. So the warmer activity with echo questions. What you want to do is help your students get the reflex of asking questions like, really? Did you really? Who with? Where to? What for? Why is that? There are plenty of these echo questions that are just expressing surprise and encouraging the other person to keep talking. Add information. Come on. Was it really that scary? Was it really that expensive? Was it really that plus any adjective? Wait, where did you say you went? Wait, what did you say you did? All these kind of questions are extremely powerful in conversations. So the activity you want to use as a warmer is very simple. It's keep the conversation going, and you can challenge your students with a timer to see how long they can keep each other talking. Let's do one for an example. It's a lot of fun. It's completely freestyle, and it's very, very positive for the students' engagement. Look, for example, I went to Belgium last weekend. Ask me questions to keep me talking. Let's see how long you can get me talking about me going to Belgium. Absolutely, personalization is key, yes, but don't just use those very short echo questions. Really? Who with? What for? Things like that. Where did you go? Soumya, you're allowed to unmute. If you want the challenge, Soumya, are you ready for the challenge?
Yes, now they can unmute themselves.
Yeah, hi. Okay.
Look, Sonia, we'll start again. I will
Okay.
just say the sentence, and let's pretend we're just at a cafe. You keep me talking, all right?
Okay.
Okay, so I went to Belgium last weekend.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, absolutely. Just for a short weekend. It wasn't a big holiday, just a short weekend.
So how was it?
It was really nice. I'm actually from Belgium, so I went to see family. You know, family's always a treasure.
Yeah, I agree. It's always nice to catch up. So what did you do exactly?
Well, actually, it was really special, you know, because I went with my dad and we were going to visit my grandma, his mom.
Wow, okay. Do you have a good relationship with like the family on your father's side?
Yeah, pretty good, pretty good. Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're on YouTube right now, so I'm not going to say the opposite, right?
Okay. All right. Did you
I'm
stay
joking,
like
of
at
course.
home? Okay. So did you stay at home the whole weekend or did you go out as well?
Well, it's not really at home because I live in Paris now. My
Mhm.
father lives in France as well, where, you know, Europe is a bit, well, it's very packed. So people tend to spread out. Well, at least my family did.
Wow.
So it was very sweet to just like take the car and drive with my dad and go up to see his mom.
Yeah, it seems fun and very warm as well.
Right.
Okay,
Very good, Sonia. Very good.
thanks.
Thanks a lot. Did you see how just Sonia actually didn't really add? I haven't learned anything about Sonia, except I think she has family values for sure because I felt her engagement when I talked about that. But apart from that, she exclusively was using echo questions to encourage me to share more. She mirrored my emotions, she validated my emotions, and she engaged me with questions. I highly recommend these simple conversation starters are an easy addition to English language lessons. They're a very easy way to encourage students to develop empathy, active listening, and these basic conversation skills. And you keep all these cards, whatever language. I mean, I use a past simple here, but I don't know the level of students. Do not put anything here that is challenging. It should be vocabulary or grammar that they know very well, because we don't want to trigger any questions. We just want them to have fun with English. Come on, make the other person talk. And for these conversation starters, you can go have fun. I put you different examples here. You can have some very shocking ones. For example, Daisy, and the other person has to do their best to keep the conversation going. I'm not George Clooney. Whatever. But you have to keep the conversation going. Or like professional situations. I'll finish a report by Monday. I'm looking for a new challenge. James late again. These are simple conversation starters, but these will really get your students flowing. It'll open them up. It'll get them engaged. It'll put them at ease. Because here, no mistakes. Okay. The point here of this activity, we're not talking about mistakes, grammar, vocabulary, anything like that. They're speaking for 5-10 minutes. They're just having fun, getting each other talking. It's loads of fun. Now, of course, this is enough for complete role plays, things like that. These are not role plays, but this is a simple activity for active listening. Now, let's move on and let's add complexity. We want to design engaging activities now, more complex activities that will get the students talking. Well, well, well. Why did I choose this picture or this comic? Any clues? It's not the first silly picture in my presentation.
Does it have anything to do with instructions? Like it feels like she gave like these instructions and everything went like downhill.
Oh, that's a good idea. I hadn't thought of instructions, and it's true. We're not going to talk about instructions today, but you're absolutely right. Instructions are very important. That's a whole other topic. Good idea. No, I hadn't thought of that actually. To me, it's about the fact that you got to find the right balance between being true to yourself and challenging them. So, because we always want to engage our students, we always want to look for what makes them tick. But you can't completely fake emotions. We're not actors. I find it's best to stick with the humor that speaks to you. So, I mean, if you've done 1, 2, maybe 3 workshops with me, if you've seen my presentations, you've already got a pretty good idea of my type of sense of humor. Students love the fact that, I mean, they might not have this exact same sense of humor as I do. Some find my sense of humor, I'll get sometimes some raised eyebrows in my lessons. Oh, Antoine again. Oy, oy, oy. But they do it with care because actually it's endearing. They get to know me. They feel that it's the real me. So I'm going to show you some activities of mine, but again, be true to yourself, okay? Stick to your sense of humor, stick to your style of activity. And what I mean about challenge them is that to get people talking, you kind of need to do them a tiny little bit of violence. Now, I don't mean real physical violence. I mean, quite typically, and look at any stories, any myths, tales, legends that we have, all the great stories, it always surrounds around some kind of conflict. Now, with humor, we make the conflict fun and entertaining, but there is a little part of challenge, a little part of conflict in all these activities. And I'm going to show you a good example of here already, a more complex, engaging activity that is simply called convince. Why convince? Because it's one of the most basic soft skills, communication skills that we use on a daily basis. It's what humans are used to. We have different opinions, different tastes, but we need to do things together, like work, like entertainment, like hobbies, things like that. And we're always trying to convince each other of doing more my style, their style. Oh, I'd prefer that movie. No, things like that. So convince is really an engaging context, a natural context, but you need a simple rule to make it fun. There's only one simple rule. The other person can't agree, or else the conversation is finished in 2 seconds. Look, let's start a band. Yes, great idea. That's it. That's it. The conversation is not going to go much further. Of course, they can start devising a whole rock band and things like that. That can lead into a project, but that's a different question. We're more thinking of the conversation we want our students to have. So let's try another one. I know if anybody else wants to try, just like Soumya, to do a speaking activity with me.
Everyone, you can, unmute yourselves and participate if you want to.
But only one, the first person to come.
Who will lead the conversation, you or me? Okay, this is good. If you, okay.
Well, no, you're going to see. I'm just going to say something, and I'm going to try to convince you to say or do or think something, and you're going to have to disagree.
Okay, I'll try. Okay.
You'll try?
Yeah.
All right. It's not easy. Everybody who's watching, who's listening, pay attention. You'll see that it's very engaging, but it's not easy at first. That's why the first activity we did on active listening is good to get our students in the flow. All right. I'm going to challenge you a bit because I know you're good, okay? We're not going to do the second one. We're going to do the third one, all right? Okay.
Okay.
Quick, call a doctor.
What? A doctor? Why?
I need a doctor. Quick, call a doctor.
No need for a doctor.
Please, call a doctor. Why can't you just simply call? I'm telling you, I need a doctor.
We don't know. I don't need to call a doctor now.
But I need one, please. I have no phone. Can you call a doctor for me, please?
Why you don't call it by yourself?
My phone doesn't work. I don't have a phone.
Oh, I don't think this is. I can't see what would. No reason for doctor now.
I'm in huge pain.
What do you feel?
I feel a huge pain in my leg. Are you a doctor?
So you need to go to the doctor in his place.
Exactly. Can you please call a doctor for me right now?
What the doctor will do for you now?
I
Here,
don't
you
know.
have to go to the hospital, dear.
Yeah, but I can't go. My phone's off. My phone doesn't work. My legs are killing me. I can't go to the doctor. I need someone to call the doctor,
So
please.
you don't have to call a doctor. You need an ambulance. Okay.
Bravo.
Actually, I remember something today with my students. We were talking about, is the school is very important, or this is the only source for education or not? And and we got disagreed on this topic.
Nice. Well, I mean, very good, very good. Good job. It's not easy at all. I challenged you, okay? I wouldn't start with that one with beginner, elementary, pre-intermediate students, of course. There are a lot of other ones. You can really have a lot of fun, and all you need for an activity like that are to put suggestions on cards. Students are going to, you put them in pairs, just like the activity above, you put them in pairs, and one by one, a student takes a card, reads it to the other student, and the other student answers. It's called conversation starters. You just take a card, I read it, the other person reacts, and we have a conversation. It's difficult, but it's loads of fun. That little element of conflict you have in those cards about convincing, it really gets the students talking. Loads of fun. So here you have different ideas. Don't hesitate, like, put yours in. Ooh, I'm putting 9 on my slides here, but I don't recommend to use 9 with students. These activities, they shouldn't drag too long. These are what I like to call short speaking activities. Use 6 cards. 6 cards are enough. That will easily get your students in a pair or in a group of 3 speaking for 10 minutes, easily. More than that, we need to move on to more compelling activities. We're gonna expand on that right now. Don't worry. But 6 cards is usually enough. That's what I do. Either, as I said, at the beginning of the lesson, or in the middle. If I have a long, like 2 academic hour lesson, I'll put 1 in the middle. Now, let's see how we can add variety and flexibility, because as you can tell, and as I said, making these cards, I'm really true to myself. I mean, I just wrote these just before the conference today. I like improvising these ones. That's being true to myself. But I want to offer the students the opportunity, the possibility to kind of build on this and explore different kind of language. Because with these kind of activities, you'll see that because we're pushing our students to have automatic reactions, there's no preparation here. You dive right in. And because of that, you'll see that your students will always tend to fall into their own very specific characters. We all have different levels of formality, familiarity. It's normal. And we all tend to go back into our normal self. But we know that for language learners, we need to get them to play with different levels of formality. They need to know what is slang, what is semi-formal, what is casual smart at the office, what is super formal with a bank or a boss or something like that. They need to play with it. So how are we going to do that? Well, my slide is completely wrong. We're going to add variety and flexibility. Okay, you already see the last 3 cards, unfortunately. I think somebody's mic is okay,
yeah,
we're good.
I fixed that. Yeah.
Okay, we're good. Okay, my bad on the transitions for the cards on this one, because you already see the last 3 cards. What we're going to add is a degree of relationship between the students, and or a place where the conversation is happening, and or a feeling, an emotion. let's take, for example, the convince card. Let's give Steve a call. Well, if I have the same conversation that I just had, so the idea is convince, I tell, for example, Mohammed, hey, Mohammed, let's give Steve a call. And you tell him, no, I can't give Steve a call right now. It's too early. He's sleeping. We'll have a normal conversation. But then we can add a level of relationship. Maybe I'm the employee, Mohammed is my boss. I'm asking, please, Mohammed, could we give Steve a call? It changes our relationship. We can add a context, a place where the conversation is having. Maybe we're in the car while driving. So I'm the employee. I need my boss, who is driving the car at the moment, to give Steve a call. Changes the context. And maybe an emotion. We're really hungry. It can be a grandparent child in the line to buy tickets. They're annoyed. It can be, I love going, I think you can tell, a bit crazy with this. Alien overlord and a human citizen. They're at the park and they're over the moon. So imagine the human citizen going to the alien overlord. Oh, alien overlord, thank you so much for saving our planet and organizing everything for us. Can we please give Steve a call? It's going to really change the level of language that your students use. You're going to have them really explore the English language in a context where they don't feel judged, because it's so varied and you're giving them so much freedom, so much flexibility to play with this, that they're really, really going to get into it. As usual, I want to share so much more than the time we have. But don't worry. So this presentation, you'll get it from Mohammed. Have fun with it. Don't hesitate. There's my email and my LinkedIn at the end of the presentation. If you have more questions on this variety and flexibility with conversation starters, don't hesitate to ask. But I do want to tackle our last and very important element, compelling characters. We're going to take a leaf out of the book of, well, storytellers, book writers, film directors, things like that, because a compelling character is very, very important to engage learners, to engage students. And if we're going to add complexity to the role plays that we give them, we need to think about exactly what makes a compelling character. A compelling character, this is not from me, this is from, you can Google it. These are general lessons that I took from storytellers. So a compelling character is a character that has a clear goal. If there's no clear goal and you think about all your favorite stories, the hero or the heroine always has a clear goal, something to strive for. They want something. It can change during the story, but they start with a goal. They're sympathetic. What does it mean, sympathetic? Well, it means that they're nice. Sorry. We're not going for bad characters. We're looking for nice people, people with redeeming qualities, people with whom we can kind of connect. Even, I'm not saying they should be perfect. Nuanced. Nuance is very important. They need to be sympathetic without being perfect. They need to be flawed. There needs to be something. I mean, if they have a clear goal, it does show from the start that they're lacking something in their life. They're looking for something. They have a clear goal. So it comes from some kind of flaw, character in their reality, whatever, wherever it stems from, there is a flaw. And finally, active. So taking that into account, what are we going to do? We're going to take a leaf out of the book of an expert negotiator as well, Daniel Shapiro. I highly recommend, if you're interested in that, read more about it. But basically, he helps define identity of people by beliefs, rituals, affiliations, values, and emotionally significant experiences. Now, beliefs, you notice I didn't add something on beliefs because beliefs, that tends to be a sensitive topic. And I think beliefs are best kept for discussions. The rest are perfect for devising compelling characters. Rituals are routines are habits. If you can find some routines, habits that speak to your students that they have as well, always good. Or some ridiculous routines or rituals, again, that's something that speaks to all people. Affiliations are likes and dislikes. Our values, what matters to us. I mean, remember that first conversation I had with Soumya? She was keeping me talking, but even though it was all about me, the conversation, sorry, it was a short conversation, from her reactions, I think I pretty much gathered that Soumya has some pretty strong family values. She reacted very warmly when I told her about going to Belgium with my dad to visit my grandma, his mother. And finally, emotionally significant experiences, those are milestones in our lives. Well, let's agree, those are always the things that we remember most and that keep us going, keep us flowing. So, how are we going to use that? Well, let's say you give your students projects. Okay? Now, these are examples of, for example, startup projects that I give my students, but you can give them very different ones. I'm thinking if we're talking school teachers, I'm thinking like designing a park, a mission to the moon, I don't know, creating a zoo, things like that. Whatever it is, they already have that clear goal for themselves. But what they're lacking a bit is variety amongst their characters to make it go further. So let's take this example of mine with the entrepreneurs in the making. We have different projects. Okay, the groups of students might be the groups behind this new product, the scooter cooler. Check it out. Isn't it a great new product? This scooter lets you go around with a fridge. You're sitting on a fridge and driving at the same time. It's fantastic. It's perfect for anybody who loves picnics. The Sound Blaster shoe, that's for people who really love to annoy their neighbors. The cleaning slippers, I would personally love a pair of those. You just walk around at home and it cleans your flat at the same time. And finally, the lazy glasses, for those of you who love to read in bed, but can't be bothered to sit up straight. You see those glasses? They're amazing. Instead of looking straight up, they have an angle. So you're lying down, you have your book, and you can read. Well, with these activities, with these products in mind, I'm going to challenge my students to go convince investors to give them money for their products. But we're going to give them a lot of different potential investors, and they're going to go around trying to convince these different investors. So these are role plays. As you can see, we've got all the elements that we were talking about from before, from the beginning, all the elements of the recipe. And we're taking things from psychology, from education, from storytelling, and from negotiators. Look, the first potential investor, it's the heir to a family fortune who aspires to be a public figure and improve the family image. Tell me about this compelling character. How would you approach this person? How would you try to convince them to invest in your business? The heir to a family fortune who aspires to be a public figure and improve the family image. What's dear to that person? Is it just a profit? Are you going to convince them by telling them, hey, you know what? I have this new product. It's going to make billions. What is their clear goal?
Yeah, being a public figure,
Sorry,
improving
Mohammed?
family image. That's the goal, being a public figure, improving the family image.
So knowing that, how would you approach this person? What arguments, like what would you try to play on to try to get this person interested in investing in your product?
Maybe by helping in promoting his name.
Totally, that's for sure. That's for sure. We should definitely do some kind of PR campaign for him or her to like tell about the product and why that person is investing. Absolutely.
And this, of course, shall happen by knowing his interests, just like Ahmed is saying in the chat box, to find what
Nice.
he's interested in, like analyzing his needs, right? Yeah, and deciding on what's gonna happen next.
Very good. At the same time, I feel you're absolutely right about listening to his needs or her needs. But at the same time, look, the guy is saying that the person is saying that they want to improve their family image. Oh, nice. Perfect. Soumya in the chat. So adding values to each of our product that would speak to societal values as well. Exactly. This person is very clearly already very rich. I mean, selling a billionaire more billions, of course, I'm sure they're still interested, never have enough. But still, it's clear in this card that that is not the primal goal of that person, improving the family image. So Sonia is absolutely right. And as Mohammed and Ahmed said, we want to figure out this person's interests because we want the values. We kind of want a perfect triangle between values, society, and that person's interests. Now, what about this next investor? Same product, but we now need to speak to a self-made person who is devoting their retirement years to being a business angel. How are we going to approach this person? What would you say would work with them? Still thinking? I'm fully aware. We in just 1 hour we made such a leap. You see the difference between the first activities that you can easily implement in any lessons, and here we're talking about less. I would never use this without having already taught those students for at least 10 lessons because I want to ease them into it. These are difficult activities. We're getting the students to think about a lot more than, well, they're not thinking about language at all, actually, actively. They're not thinking about their grammar and their vocabulary. They're actually approaching a conversation as they would in their native language because instead of thinking about grammar and vocabulary, they're thinking about, well, what is my clear goal in this conversation? What are the interests and goals of the other person? And how are we going to be able to match? And that is what the human brain is doing when it's carrying out conversations in native language. Interesting. First, I found his favorite places to get to know his nice favorite places. Ahmed, it might sound like a joke, but I agree with you. Why? We have already self-made person. So this is a person who's very active during their professional life. Maybe they started as, a technician. For whatever reason, they didn't finish their studies of engineering, or they couldn't, something like that. But they worked hard to go from technician to engineer to CEO, etc. And they did so much more. They're self-made. And they're devoting their retirement. So Ahmed is absolutely right. If they're retired, they have time, different rhythm of life. the idea of business angel, you want to invite them to one of their favorite places. It's a very good idea, Ahmed. Oh, Soumya, another word of wisdom from Soumya. Speaking to him about how his mentorship would really make a Nice! Soumya, that is perfect. Exactly. While the first one, the heir to a family fortune, probably doesn't want to work a lot. They want, yes, a lot of PR around cool society values that can help them portray them as, caring for the environment, caring for the animals and things like that. This second person, on the contrary, the second person is going to want to be involved and is probably going to want to mentor us. This person wants to make a difference. They're not going to do all the work. They're not going to be as involved as we are, but they are going to want to accompany us throughout the process. And now, what about a well-established partner at a multinational investment fund? Exactly, Ahmed. He wants to leave a mark for the future. Exactly. I would say both of the first characters do want to leave a mark for the future, but in very different ways, right? The heir to a family fortune, it's mostly going to be about PR and about, participating in events, things like that. The second person is going to want to, do things themselves, be active, be participant. Soumya, exactly. The last one, I mean, money, money, money. They're going to want to talk about KPIs, about return on investment, things like that, and they're going to want to talk about risks. So you see 3 extremely different conversations, but based on one activity. These kind of activities, when you start adding this level of layer, these activities start to become real business games or role plays or projects. Different ways to run them. But basically, by adding these compelling characters to already engaging activities, we are really accompanying our students as much as we can in their quest to express themselves and to practice expressing themselves. As usual, I have plenty more examples here. 9 cards. Again, as I said, 9 cards is too much. I just wanted to give you as much material as possible in the presentation, but this is too much for one activity, for one class. Limit it to 3, maybe 6. The more time you're going to give them for each character, because you see here, they're going to have an investment conversation with each character. It's not like the first activities. Each conversation here is going to last a couple of minutes, maybe even 5 or 10, if it's in the context of a project. So 3 cards would be enough. And next lesson, you offer them the possibility to practice 3 more times with 3 new cards. That way they've had time to reflect and grow. So, wait, Ahmed, could you expand on your question? Oh, at the end, yes, but how do you reach there? Was responding to Soumya's yes, money, money, money. I agree with you. Yes, Ahmed, you're right. It depends on which cultures, but yes, you don't want to start talking about money from the go. You want to focus on the product, on talking about, I don't remember the products we were talking about, but for example, the cleaning slippers. You want to start talking about the product and how it's going to be a huge success, and the money is going to come later. You want to start first talking about, yes, success, changing the market, things like that. So I hope this was useful. I don't know if you have any questions or comments. I know, as usual, I ran a bit late, but this really is my personal recipe, and you can adapt it to yourselves. But keep this in mind. You'll see that if you stick to these things, you are going to have very good, you're going to have very interesting, engaging role plays, business games, quests, projects, speaking activities, conversation starters, things like that, without having to torture yourself too much. And you'll see that your students are going to, if you ease them into it, again, as I said, you don't start with the compelling characters. You start with a bit of active listening, those short conversation starters at the beginning of your lessons here and there, or at the breaks in the middle for a couple of weeks, and then you gradually give them more engaging activities like convince, things like that. Then you add variability. You add variety and flexibility within the context. And finally, you go to compelling characters. Ease them into it, and you'll see you're basically giving your students as close to real life situations as you can. There you go. In my presentation, you have my email, my LinkedIn. Don't hesitate.